Hey, how you doing? Today I'm gonna talk about who's coming back and who's leaving for the Eagles and this coming off season. So the Eagles have the game tomorrow, Sunday against the Redskins. Hopefully they win and go to 8-8, and they have a whole off season. And in my season recap and 2012 preview, I talked about how I think that all the coaches will come back. So Reed, Castillo, everybody will come back. I think that definitely Reed will come back, and I think the only way that Castillo doesn't is if the Rams fire Steve Spagnuolo, their head coach, which it now looks like they probably will. I think that the Eagles will be then interested in bringing Spagnuolo in as the defensive coordinator, um, which Spagnuolo is a really good defensive coordinator. He took the Giants to the Super Bowl. Well, he didn't take them, but he was the defensive coordinator the year that they won. Um, so if the Rams do fire Spagnuolo, um, he might actually get another head coaching job, but more than likely he would just go back to being the coordinator. And the Eagles, since Spagnuolo used to be an assistant, he was linebackers coach with the Eagles. Um, the Eagles might be interested in bringing him back. But I have a feeling that they're going to stick with Reed and Castillo and the rest of the staff. Um, so like I said, I think all the coaches will be back, which I think is a good thing. I think, especially the way the Eagles have won these past 3 games, um, the players continue to play hard, and the coaches kind of look like they figured things out with this new group of players. So I definitely think that all the coaches should be back. And then turning to players, who's will be back and who's going, I think most of the high-profile guys will be back. I think if there's one big-name guy who has the best chance of not being back is Asante Samuel for 2 reasons. All right, 2 or 3. I think the biggest reason that he probably won't be back is that um, Asamoah and Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie are both kind of the same style in that they're big, tall, physical, athletic, um, press, a little bit of bump and run, play man. That's their style of coverage. Whereas Samuel excels in the zone, um, not really in man, um, more of taking gambles, trying to get interceptions. You wouldn't necessarily want to line Samuel up against a receiver and just say cover him 1-on-1 the whole game. Um, don't take gambles. Just be in the receiver's back pocket. That would be something you would tell Asamoah, Rogers Cromartie, but probably not Samuel. So I think that the Eagles will definitely at least entertain offers to trade Samuel. Um, if I think if they do trade him, it'll more than likely be for a draft pick. They could probably get a second for him, maybe a third. I'm not sure that they could get a first for Samuel at this point. I wish they could, but I'm not. That would be tough to do. But I think you could get a second, um, and at worst a third. But I think you could get a second for Samuel. I think um, a team that feels like they're maybe a corner away or something. I think a team would definitely be willing to give the Eagles a second, possibly a first, but I think a second is probably more reasonable. And then um, they might try to get just a player for Samuel. Um, and if they do, they would probably look for a linebacker or safety. Um, I'm not so sure it wouldn't be better just to get a pick, especially if you could get a first or second. But if a team is willing to give maybe a nice young linebacker or safety, maybe even like a defensive tackle or something, I would do it. Uh, but if you're talking the value of safety that team will be willing to give you or a draft pick, you could probably get a more meaningful draft pick than you could a player. So, but if they could get, like I said, if they could get a nice safety, that would be something I would do. um, so I think that there's a good chance that Samuel goes. Um, and interesting thing is, don't be shocked if the Patriots try to get Samuel. It sounds a little wacky because they didn't sign him when he was a free agent a couple years ago, but he fits their system well. First of all, that's kind of how he became the player that he is now. When he was in New England, and then also they struggle on they're struggling on defense this year, especially in the secondary. They have a couple of good defensive linemen, Vince Wilfork. They have some nice linebackers, Mayo, Brandon Spikes. So they could play in the front seven, but their secondary hasn't been too good this year, and a lot of that is injury. So maybe the Patriots are thinking, we'll get our guys back, and they wouldn't want to get Samuel, but that's something to keep an eye on. And the Patriots always have a lot of draft picks, so they would be able to deal a pick for Samuel. I'm not sure how likely that is, though, only because if the Patriots and Belichick really like Samuel, they probably wouldn't have let him go in the first place. But maybe that part of that is because they didn't want to pay him, because they thought that they could get a guy who could just fill in and be just as good as him. But maybe they figured that it's not as much of the system as it was Samuel being good. So we'll see. But so look an eye out for the Patriots. The Eagles and Patriots have made a lot of deals in recent years, so that could be an interesting destination if Samuel goes back to the Patriots. Plus, it's an AFC team, so and the Eagles won't be playing the AFC East for what 3 years? Yeah, no, 4 years, because they played the AFC East this year, so that could be interesting possibility there. And then other guys, probably the most notable person that people are talking about will be back or go is Deshaun Jackson, because he is a free agent. I think that the Eagles have to re-sign Deshaun Jackson. I think, if you remember the year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, you had McNabb, Westbrook, and Owens. I think Jackson is the Owens to this team in terms of Vic is kind of like the McNabb, McCoy's the Westbrook. The Eagles need Jackson. If for some stupid reason Jackson were to leave and the Eagles didn't re-sign him, the offense would look totally different and not in a good way next year. The running lanes that we saw Shady McCoy have this year would not be there next year. And it's not because the line isn't doing a good enough job blocking. Teams will be able to bring safeties into the box, and McCoy will not have those cutback lanes because there will be a safety right there to get him. Guys like Jackson, you can't just look at the stats. He draws, not only does he draw coverage, but he draws over the top coverage, which is very important. And so McCoy's would not have the running lanes, and also Vic wouldn't have the running lanes. Vic wouldn't be able to, teams would be able to keep a safety, not necessarily to spy Vic, but to keep an eye out for him. But with Jackson on the field, that safety would have to be playing back. So definitely re-sign Jackson. So if any people in the Eagles organization are watching, it's re-sign Deshaun Jackson. Those are probably the two biggest things I would look at, and then I'll keep, as the draft nears, I'll do a lot of features on the draft, on Eagles needs and also on specific players. And you can watch my other video for my early thoughts on the draft and what the Eagles could and should do. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Go Eagles tomorrow.